My name is Emma Dawson. I'm 30 years old, and the night my sister publicly defined who counted as real family, I was standing in the middle of the biggest gallery opening of my career. My phone vibrated beside a sold sticker on the largest painting I had ever created. The message on the screen was blunt. "Don't come to Mom and Dad's anniversary tonight. We've already finalized the guest list, and your presence would make things uncomfortable." I read it twice, then watched my sister's social media page update less than an hour later. There they were, my parents, my sister, relatives I had helped through emergencies, and people who barely knew our family. The caption said, "Real family only." My mother commented, "Perfect night," and my father added a red heart. They were celebrating inside the house whose mortgage and property taxes I had quietly paid for 6 years. I could have called. I could have begged for an explanation. Instead, I typed one sentence beneath the photo. "Glad we cleared that up. You're paying the mortgage and taxes from now on." The post disappeared within minutes. Then my phone exploded. 36 missed calls, frantic messages, and one voicemail warning me not to ruin everything over a misunderstanding. What they did not know was that the anniversary dinner had never been just a dinner, and the financial documents waiting in my inbox proved it. Before I tell you what those documents revealed, and what happened when I finally walked into that house, tell me, what time is it where you are right now? Where are you watching from? And what's the weather like there? I'm curious to see how far this story will travel. For 6 years, my family had treated my support like a utility, something always available, rarely acknowledged, and only noticed when it stopped. The house in that anniversary photo had once belonged to a retired couple who wanted a quick sale. When my father's consulting business collapsed after a major client disappeared, my parents were 3 months behind on rent and too proud to tell anyone. I found out because an overdue notice fell from my mother's purse during lunch. I had just sold a collection to a hotel group, and instead of putting the money into a larger studio, I used most of it as the down payment on that house. The mortgage remained in my name because my parents could not qualify. We agreed they would cover utilities and routine maintenance while I handled the mortgage and taxes until my father recovered. He never really recovered. The arrangement that was supposed to last 18 months became the invisible foundation of their lifestyle. At first, I did not resent it. I loved them, and I wanted them safe. I also believed support moved in both directions. Yet every family gathering taught me otherwise. My sister was praised for bringing flowers to dinner, while I had paid the insurance premium that kept the house protected. She was celebrated for organizing birthdays, while I covered the catering bill she quietly sent me afterward. When she launched a boutique event planning company, I designed the branding, photographed her first 3 events, and advanced her $20,000 without interest. She called it a bridge loan. 4 years later, not $1 had crossed back over that bridge. The gallery around me that night was filled with people studying my newest series, a collection about negative space, the shapes created by what is missing. A curator stood in front of one canvas and told me the empty section made the whole composition more powerful. The irony almost made me laugh. My family had spent years turning me into negative space, and now strangers were paying to understand the feeling. I opened the messages that had arrived after my comment. My mother wrote, "Please delete what you said before relatives see it." My father wrote, "Call me immediately. This affects more than you understand." My sister sent 12 texts in less than 3 minutes. The first called me dramatic. The second said I was humiliating our parents. The third insisted I had misunderstood the caption. By the 10th, her tone had changed. "You can't stop paying next month. There are contracts involved." That sentence froze me. There had never been contracts involving my mortgage beyond the original loan and insurance documents. I searched my email for the property address. 3 days earlier, a lender I did not recognize had sent a verification request concerning a home equity line of credit. I had assumed it was spam and archived it. Now I opened the attachment carefully. The application listed my parents as occupants, my sister's company as the beneficiary of the funds, and me as the property owner providing consent. At the bottom was a digital signature that looked enough like mine to fool a stranger, but not enough to fool me. My legal name was spelled correctly. My old studio address was listed beneath it. Whoever completed the form knew private details, but they had made one mistake. The signature was copied from a licensing agreement I had signed before I changed the way I wrote the letter D in Dawson. I stared at it while the sounds of my opening continued around me. Glasses clinking, shoes crossing polished concrete, buyers discussing paintings whose proceeds my family had already begun treating as future rescue money. Then another email arrived from the lender's fraud department. We have been unable to confirm your authorization. No funds have been released. Please contact us immediately. The anniversary exclusion suddenly made sense in a way that was worse than simple cruelty. They had not kept me away because seating was limited or because my sister disliked tension. They needed me absent while they entertained people connected to her new business expansion. They needed the house to look like family property, my sister to look like the devoted daughter managing everything, and my parents to look financially secure. My presence risked questions. My comment had not merely embarrassed them, it had punctured the story they were selling. I saved screenshots of the vanished post, every message, and the loan application. One of my cousins had already sent me the original photo with a short note. I thought you knew. She told everyone you chose your gallery over the family. That was the final layer. They had banned me, then told the guests I had abandoned them. For years, I had wondered what I needed to do to become visible to my family. Standing beside a painting built around absence, I finally understood the answer. I did not need to become more visible. I needed to stop making their comfortable picture possible. My sister called again before I could contact the lender. This time, I answered and switched on the recording feature my phone announced automatically. I wanted no private conversation that could later be rewritten into something else. Finally, she snapped. There was no greeting. You need to take that comment back and call Mom. She's crying. I looked across the gallery at a red dot beside another sold painting. The post is gone. What exactly am I supposed to take back? You know what you did. You made us look like we use you for money. You submitted a loan application using my signature. Silence replaced her anger so quickly that I knew she had been waiting for that sentence. When she spoke again, her voice had softened into the careful tone she used with difficult clients. That is not what happened. Then explain what happened. Mom and Dad agreed to help me secure temporary capital. The lender needed routine confirmation. Everyone assumed you would approve because the house is for the family. The house is legally mine, and the signature is not. You are making this sound criminal. I'm describing the document. She exhaled sharply. Emma, you always do this. You take a family issue and turn it into a courtroom. Nobody stole anything. No money was even released. Because the fraud department contacted me. Her breathing changed. Behind her, I could hear doors closing and several muffled voices. She was still at the anniversary party, probably standing in a bedroom, while the real family waited downstairs for her to contain the person who paid for the building. She tried another approach. The loan was going to be repaid after my venue opened. This was good for all of us. Mom and Dad would have had additional income, and you would finally get some of your money back. From a loan secured against my property? You weren't supposed to carry it forever. That was not your decision to make. It became our decision when you refused to answer messages about helping with the expansion. I had not refused. 3 weeks earlier, she had sent me a proposal with no budget, no repayment plan, and a demand for $120,000 by the end of the month. I replied that I would review a formal business plan. She never sent one. Instead, she apparently decided my caution was permission to go around me. Then she said the thing that stripped away the last possibility that this had been a misguided family effort. Tonight mattered. My potential investor was there. I needed everything to feel stable, and you have a habit of bringing up uncomfortable details. What uncomfortable details? The mortgage, the money, the fact that you think paying bills gives you authority over everyone. I almost admired the honesty. So you excluded me because I might tell the truth. I excluded you because you make every gathering about what you've done for us. I have never told relatives I own the house. You don't have to. You walk in with that expression. I laughed once, not because anything was funny, but because her argument had finally reached its natural absurdity. My existence had become offensive evidence. I was welcome when a payment was due, useful when a crisis appeared, and disruptive when photographs were taken. She continued before I could answer. Delete the comment from your activity log, call the lender and confirm the application. Then we can discuss the anniversary like adults. There it was. Not an apology, but an order disguised as reconciliation. No. Her voice hardened. Think carefully. If you block this loan, the venue deal could collapse. Deposits have already been paid. Staff have been promised jobs. Mom and Dad signed guarantees. With what authority? They signed as family stakeholders. They are not owners. They live there. Occupancy is not ownership. You would really destroy my business over one caption? This is not about a caption. The caption simply told the truth about how you see me. I'm not family to you. I'm financing. She called me selfish, jealous, unstable, and vindictive in less than a minute. She said our parents had spent their lives supporting my little art hobby, although they had not attended an exhibition in 4 years. She said my success had made me cold. She said no decent daughter would threaten her parents' home during their anniversary. Each accusation was designed to move attention away from the forged signature and place it on my reaction. I let her finish. Then I said, I'm contacting the lender tonight. Tomorrow, I'm speaking with an attorney. The mortgage payment scheduled for next month will be paused until I understand every obligation attached to my property. Do not submit another document in my name. Do not delete any messages. And do not tell me this is a misunderstanding again. Her confidence cracked. You wouldn't. I already did the part you never expected. I said no. After I ended the call, a text arrived from my father. Your sister says you are threatening legal action. Come to the house tomorrow. We will settle this privately. A year earlier, I would have obeyed. I would have arrived alone, accepted partial explanations, and left carrying everyone else's panic. That night, I forwarded the loan file and recording to an attorney recommended by my closest friend. Then I replied to my father with one sentence. I'll come, but nothing involving my signature will remain private. If your own family used your loyalty as permission, would you still protect their reputation, or finally protect yourself? I left the gallery after the final guest departed, but I did not go home. Rachel Chen was waiting at a 24-hour cafe 2 blocks from her office, still wearing the navy suit she used for corporate investigations. We had met in college when she bought a charcoal sketch from me with money she was supposed to spend on textbooks. She was not the kind of friend who offered comfort before facts. That night, facts were exactly what I needed. I placed my phone, the loan application, and screenshots of the deleted post on the table. Rachel read everything without interrupting. When she reached the forged signature, she zoomed in, compared it with an old contract, and looked up at me. This was prepared by someone who had access to your records, she said. Not guessed, accessed. My parents keep copies of old documents in the study. My sister has a key. Rachel nodded but did not rush to judgment. The lender stopped the transfer, which protects you for now, but the application mentions personal guarantees, a lease commitment, and a projected closing date. This is bigger than a desperate request for money. She pointed to the name of the proposed venue, Hawthorne House Events. I recognized it immediately. My sister had been posting mood boards for months: arched windows, expensive lighting, a bridal suite, private gardens. She had told everyone she was in negotiations, never that she had already paid deposits. Rachel searched the public business registry and found that the company had been created 6 weeks earlier. My sister was the managing member. My parents were listed as minority investors. I was not listed anywhere, yet the financial statement attached to the loan included the estimated value of my house as a family asset. "They built the application around your equity," Rachel said. "Without it, the numbers probably fail." I felt something colder than anger. I had believed I was helping my parents keep a roof over their heads. They had quietly converted my generosity into an asset they could present as their own. My sister had not merely expected another favor. She had incorporated my sacrifice into her business model. Rachel then asked a question nobody in my family had ever asked. "What outcome do you want?" The answer should have been simple. I wanted an apology. I wanted them to admit I mattered. I wanted my sister to understand how deeply she had humiliated me. But those wishes sounded childish beside a forged signature. "I want my name protected," I said. "I want the loan stopped. I want to know every document they signed. And I want them to stop assuming I'll rescue them." "Good. Those are actions, not wishes." She helped me organize the evidence chronologically. First, the message banning me from the anniversary. Second, the real family-only post and my parents' approving comments. Third, the frantic messages connecting my mortgage payments to business contracts. Fourth, the forged application. Fifth, the recorded call in which my sister admitted the investor was at the party and that I had been excluded because I might discuss ownership. Rachel also reminded me of something I had tried to forget. 2 years earlier, she had attended my mother's birthday dinner. When the restaurant declined my father's card, my sister announced across the table that I would handle it because I was the financially responsible one. Everyone laughed. Rachel did not. She had followed me outside afterward and asked whether that happened often. I defended them then. I told her families had different roles. "Roles are agreed upon," she said now. "What they gave you was an obligation." By 2 a.m, an attorney named Daniel Mercer had reviewed the documents and joined us by video call. He explained that the attempted loan could expose my parents and sister to civil liability and potentially criminal investigation, although the lender would determine its own next steps. He advised me not to threaten, bargain, or accept verbal promises. He also told me that pausing the mortgage without a plan could damage my credit because the debt remained mine. The lawful option was stronger: revoke every authorization, notify the lender of disputed documents, cancel the automatic transfers from my operating account, and require my parents either to sign a formal occupancy and repayment agreement or vacate so I could sell the property. That distinction mattered. I did not want reckless revenge that injured me too. I wanted consequences that landed where they belonged. Daniel prepared a notice for the next afternoon's meeting. It offered 3 choices. My parents could refinance the property into their names within 60 days. They could enter a written lease at a fair but manageable rate, assume taxes and insurance, and disclose all financial commitments involving the address. Or they could move out within the legal period while I listed the house for sale. No more invisible arrangement, no more family promises, no more access to my records. For my sister, the terms were simpler. She would withdraw every application containing my information, provide copies of all related contracts, and communicate through counsel about the forged signature. I would not invest in Hawthorne House events, guarantee its lease, or cover its losses. Rachel watched me read the notice twice. Are you ready for them to say you're cruel? They already called me cruel for refusing to be defrauded. Are you ready for relatives to choose their version? I looked at the screenshot of the anniversary photo. Every smile in it had once made me question my worth. Now it looked like evidence of a performance built on my silence. They can choose any version they want, I said. They just can't charge it to me anymore. The next evening, I arrived at the house at 6 with Rachel beside me and Daniel available by phone. My sister Sarah opened the door before I rang. Her anniversary dress had been replaced by a cream sweater and an expression carefully arranged between exhaustion and accusation. You brought her? She asked, looking past me at Rachel. I brought a witness. This is a family conversation. Yesterday, I was told I wasn't family. Her face tightened. She stepped aside only after my father, Robert, called from the living room and told us to come in. My mother, Linda, sat rigidly on the couch with a box of tissues beside her. The anniversary flowers were still displayed on the dining table. Near them stood a framed photograph from the party, the same group portrait that had appeared beneath the words, "Real family only." Someone had already removed it from the frame, but the empty frame remained. My father began with the tone he used when negotiating. We are all upset. Your comment created unnecessary panic, but we can fix this if everyone remains reasonable. I placed a folder on the coffee table. Reasonable starts with facts. Sarah crossed her arms. Can we first acknowledge that threatening Mom and Dad's home publicly was vicious? I did not threaten their home. I stated that I would stop paying expenses for people who had publicly excluded me. You knew what everyone would assume. They assumed you owned a house I pay for because that is what you encouraged them to believe. My mother reached for my hand, but I kept both hands on the folder. Emma, sweetheart, the caption was Sarah's idea. Your father and I didn't mean anything by our comments. We thought you were busy at the gallery. I received a message telling me not to come. My father looked at Sarah. She stared back without blinking. I was trying to avoid conflict during an important night. Important because of the anniversary? Or because your investor was there? That changed the room. My mother looked down. My father's jaw shifted. Sarah's arms dropped to her sides. I opened the folder and laid out the company registration, the proposed venue lease, the loan application, and the screenshot of my forged signature. Hawthorne House Events needed capital. The application treated this property as a family asset. Mom and Dad signed as investors. My signature was copied without permission. I was kept away so nobody would learn the property is mine. My father leaned forward. We did not forge anything. The electronic forms were handled by Sarah and the broker. Sarah turned on him immediately. You gave me the documents. I gave you records because you said Emma had agreed in principle. I said she would agree once she understood the opportunity. Their first instinct was not remorse. It was separation. Each person trying to place one chair between themselves and the consequences. My mother began crying. We never wanted this to happen. We only wanted to help your sister build something. You have your art. She needed a chance too. The sentence landed harder than I expected. Even now, my success was not a life I had built through work. It was excess capacity available for redistribution. I gave her a chance, I said. I gave her $20,000, branding, photography, introductions, and years to repay me. Sarah shook her head. You always keep score. Banks keep records, courts keep records, businesses keep records. Only this family calls records cruelty when they reveal who paid. My father raised his voice. Enough. You will not speak to your mother that way in our home. I slid the deed across the table. That is another fact we need to correct. This is my property. You live here because I allowed it. The words sounded harsh, But the arrangement had survived only because I softened every truth until it disappeared. My father stared at the deed. He had signed documents at closing 6 years earlier and knew exactly whose name appeared there. Yet hearing it spoken aloud stripped away the social fiction he preferred. Sarah stepped toward me. "So that's your revenge? You throw them out and destroy my company because you were left off one guest list?" "No." My response to the guest list was one comment. "Everything happening now is the consequence of the loan application." I handed each of my parents a copy of Daniel's notice. I explained the 3 options: refinance within 60 days, sign a formal lease, and assume the property expenses, or prepare to move while I sold the house. The automatic transfers from my business account had already been canceled. The mortgage would continue to be paid from a protected account while the legal process unfolded, but no one would again treat that payment as an unconditional gift. My mother read the pages with shaking hands. "We can't qualify to refinance." "Then review the lease option." "The rent is impossible," Sarah said. Rachel spoke for the first time. "It is below comparable market rent and includes a 6-month transition period." Sarah glared at her. "Nobody asked you." "I did," I said. My father threw the notice onto the table. "After everything we did for you, this is how you repay us?" I had prepared for anger, but not for the strange calm that followed. "Tell me what you did for me that gives you the right to sign my name." He opened his mouth, then closed it. Sarah picked up the loan application. "Fine, I'll withdraw it. Is that what you want? I'll tell the lender it was an error, and we move on." "The lender has already been notified that the signature is disputed. Daniel has requested the broker's communications and all versions of the application." My mother looked terrified. "You reported us?" I protected myself. "You could have come here first," my father said. "You had 6 years to come to me before using my property. You had 3 weeks to ask after I requested a business plan. You had all day yesterday to tell me the truth. Instead, you banned me from the party and built a photograph around my absence." Sarah's face changed. The anger remained, but fear had finally reached it. "The investor can withdraw if the financing is delayed." "Then your company was never ready." "I signed a non-refundable venue deposit." "With whose money?" She glanced at my parents. My mother began to cry harder. My father admitted they had emptied most of their retirement savings, nearly $80,000, to cover Sarah's deposit, consultants, and launch expenses. They expected the equity loan to replace the money before anyone noticed. If the loan failed, they would have almost nothing left beyond a modest monthly pension. The anniversary celebration had doubled as a private investor presentation, and several relatives had been encouraged to contribute after seeing the family-owned home and hearing that the business had property backing. There was the second betrayal. They had not only risked my asset, they had used the illusion of my asset to draw other people in. I looked at Sarah. Did those relatives receive written disclosures that the house was not yours, not Mom's, and not Dad's? She said nothing. My father whispered, "We were going to explain after closing." "No," I said. "You were going to explain only if something went wrong." At that moment, my cousin sent me a screenshot from a family group chat. Sarah had written that morning, "Emma is having an emotional episode and trying to punish our parents because her exhibition did not get enough attention." Beneath it, my parents had not corrected her. I turned the phone so all 3 could see. "Before I came here, you were still lying." Sarah's face drained of color. I stood. "The lender will investigate the signature. The relatives you solicited will receive accurate ownership information from the attorney. You will not use my name, property, artwork, or reputation in another pitch. Mom and Dad have 60 days to choose one of the legal options. Until then, all financial communication is in writing." My mother asked whether I could really walk away from them. I looked at the empty picture frame, then at the documents they had assembled from pieces of my life. "You walked away from me years ago," I said. "I'm only closing the account you kept open." The consequences began before I reached my car. Sarah's investor called my cousin after receiving the ownership disclosure from Daniel. By morning, he had suspended negotiations. Two relatives who had been considering investments demanded their deposits back. The broker, suddenly eager to protect himself, produced emails showing that Sarah had described me as fully supportive but too busy to sign in person. One message from my father said, "Use the signature from the prior agreement. She won't object once the funds arrive." My mother had replied with a thumbs up. The lender permanently rejected the application and opened a formal fraud review. Daniel negotiated to keep the matter focused on financial restitution and corrected records, but he made no promise that the lender would ignore what happened. For the first time, my family could not solve a problem by calling me emotional. Sarah's investor withdrew completely 3 days later. Hawthorne House Events lost the venue because she could not make the next payment. The original deposit was non-refundable, and the company owed cancellation fees to 2 contractors. She closed the business before it hosted a single event. Her polished announcement online called it a strategic pause. But people involved in the deal knew otherwise. The same social circle she had impressed at the anniversary now asked why she had claimed a house belonged to her family when it did not. My parents initially refused all 3 housing options. My father sent long emails arguing that 6 years of occupancy had created a moral ownership interest. My mother left voicemails describing every sacrifice she had made, raising me. I answered only through Daniel. When the deadline reached 30 days, they finally signed a temporary lease, assumed the taxes and insurance, and agreed to vacate within 6 months so the property could be sold. To cover their obligations, they sold a second car, canceled several memberships, and moved their remaining savings into an account neither daughter could access. Sarah blamed me in the family group chat until my cousin posted the original message banning me from the anniversary, followed by the screenshot of real family only and the lender documents. The conversation changed instantly. Relatives who had accused me of cruelty began asking Sarah why she had solicited money under false claims. She left the group. My parents stayed silent. I did not celebrate their humiliation. I celebrated the end of confusion. 2 months later, I listed the house. My parents moved into a smaller 2-bedroom rental across town. It was clean, safe, and within their actual budget. They told relatives I had forced them out. I did not correct every version. I had spent too much of my life performing unpaid public relations for people who misrepresented me in private. Sarah sold her luxury SUV and took a job coordinating events for a hotel. Part of her wages went toward repaying the relatives who had advanced money. The $20,000 she owed me became a signed repayment agreement. The monthly amount was modest, but the principle mattered. What she called a gift had finally been named a debt. The night the sale closed, I transferred the proceeds into an account for my studio expansion and future security. I kept none of the old family furniture. The only object I removed was the empty frame from the anniversary table. In my studio, I placed it beside the screenshot of the deleted post and began a new canvas. Rachel watched me cover the surface with layers of white, gold, and deep blue. "What are you calling it?" she asked. "Cleared up," I said. For years, my family had benefited from keeping everything undefined: ownership, loans, obligations, respect. One comment had forced every hidden arrangement into the light. The post vanished in minutes, but its consequences remained. So did mine. 6 months after the anniversary, my new exhibition opened under the title Negative Space: What Absence Reveals. The central piece was Cleared Up, a large canvas built around the outline of an empty family photograph. I did not include names, screenshots, or private documents. I did not need to. The work was about the moment a person stops confusing being needed with being loved. The exhibition sold out. My parents did not attend opening night. A week later, my mother asked to meet at a quiet restaurant. My father came with her. They looked older without the house and the rituals that had allowed them to appear more secure than they were. For once, neither of them asked me to fix anything. My father apologized for the forged signature, the lies about ownership, and the message used to keep me away. He admitted that they had favored Sarah because her approval was easy to earn, while mine required them to face uncomfortable truths. My mother admitted she had commented "perfect night" because she wanted the photograph to look happy, even though she knew I had been excluded. Their apology was specific, which made it different from every vague promise that had come before. I listened. Then I told them forgiveness did not restore access. We agreed to limited contact, one scheduled dinner each month, no financial requests, no surprise visits, and no discussion of Sarah's debts. Trust would be measured in consistent behavior, not emotional speeches. They accepted the boundaries, though my mother cried when I said I would not put them back into my financial plans. Sarah waited longer. Her first apology arrived only after the repayment agreement began. It focused on stress, pressure, and her fear of failure. I returned it with one sentence: an explanation is not accountability. 2 months later, she wrote again. This time, she named what she had done without blaming me for reacting. I acknowledged the message, but I did not invite her back into my life. Some relationships can be rebuilt. Others must remain at a safe distance long enough for both people to understand what access used to cost. People sometimes ask whether I regret that comment. I do not. It was not elegant, and it was not gentle, but it was honest. Glad we cleared that up. You're paying the mortgage and taxes from now on. Those words did not destroy my family. They exposed a structure already held together by secrecy, entitlement, and my fear of disappointing people who had no fear of disappointing me. My revenge was not leaving my parents homeless or watching my sister fail. My revenge was refusing to finance the version of the family in which I existed only as a resource. The house was sold. The false business collapsed. The debts became visible. The people who called me selfish learned the price of my absence, and I finally used my own success to build a life that did not require permission from anyone seated around that anniversary table. Blood can create a connection, but it cannot excuse exploitation. Love without respect becomes control, and generosity without boundaries becomes an invitation for people to take more than they would ever dare to request openly. So tell me honestly, if your family excluded you publicly while secretly depending on your money, would you give them another chance? Or would you let them experience life without the support they never appreciated? Share your answer in the comments, and remember this: protecting your peace is not betrayal. Sometimes it is the first loyal thing you have ever done for yourself.
We hope the story left you with more than just an ending. This is a fictional narrative made only for entertainment and educational reflection. We hope it reminds you that growth often begins when you stop asking why someone hurt you and start asking why you kept accepting what you already knew.